Welcome to Demand and Disrupt, the Disability Podcast. Here, we will learn to advocate for ourselves and each other. This podcast is supported with funds from the Advocato Press, based in Louisville, Kentucky. Welcome to Demand and Disrupt, a disability podcast. I am Kimberly Parsley, and I am here with Lisa McKinley. Hey, Lisa, how you doing?
Hey, everybody. How is it going, Kimberly?
It's going, it's just sort of going. I was going to say it's going good, but, it's really not.
That happens. I know it's been one of those weeks.
It seems like it has. For lots of people, not just me. So we're recording this on election week here in Kentucky. We have off-year elections. No spoilers here. We re-elected Governor Andy Beshear. And I went to vote nearby, just down the road.
And how was that?
I'm trying to think of how it was that won't make me have to have an explicit rating on this podcast episode. It was not good, Lisa. It was not great. So, I loved where we used to vote before the pandemic. We'd go down to the fire station in our, kind of neighborhood, our community. And they knew me. They had the electronic voting machine ready to go. It was up and running. It was at the fire station. So the kids got to play on the fire truck while me and Michael voted. It was nice. It was great. That has no longer been my experience since 2020. So I go in and it's like, and these weren't volunteers, okay, because I'm very respectful of volunteer poll workers, but these weren't volunteers. They were actual employees of, I don't even know what, but something. When I finally asked, someone said she was an employee of the DMV. I was like, oh, well, that explains why you don't know how to deal with blind people, I guess.
So people who should know, they should have together. Maybe.
Well, there should be training. And I will complain to the proper authorities. And if anyone knows who I can complain to, please let me know. Okay, here's what happened. So I go in and, they're like, do you have your ID? Yes. Michael shows him an ID, me and Michael together. And they said, does she have an ID? Yeah. Does she? I said, yes, she does.
Of course.
So I hand them my ID. And so Michael signs the thing and they say, can she sign her name? And so then I start waving and I'm like, hello, yeah, she can. She's good. Thanks. So I sign my name. And then they hand me a paper ballot and put, and give me like a pen. And I'm like, no. I said, there should be an electronic ballot or a machine that I can use for that. And she said, oh, well, if you want to do that, then we have to go through the process of spoiling this ballot. Or he could just, he being Michael, I guess, he could just help you. And I was like, no, it's my right to vote independently. So I want to exercise that right. Okay. I'm like, gee, sorry I put you out, lady, who's supposedly getting paid to be here. And so then we go over to the electronic voting machine, which was not plugged in. No one knows how to work it, except, wait for it, my husband turns on the machine. Yeah, exactly. Boots up the machine and everything. And then the woman says, okay, there you go. I was like, there should be headphones, like this should be talking. That's sort of the point. She says again. She goes looking all around. Where's the headphones? And keep in mind, I've already been here. There wasn't a line, but I've already been here over half an hour, right? And then, so they find the headphones, but they can't find where it plugs in at. So Michael, again, thank God for my husband. I do love him dearly. Finds the place. He's like, I think it's here where this picture of a headphone jack is. I think this panel has to come up. And she was like, okay, nothing. So Michael's like, okay, I'm taking it off. So he takes it off and he gets it. And So we plug it in and I use the machine and I vote. And it's so stupid because now it has to print out a paper ballot. And so now I go to scan the ballot and it said, ballot cannot scan because this is a provisional ballot. And the woman's like, why did you cast a provisional ballot? And I'm like,
get out at me.
Yeah. And I'm like, you set it up. I mean, and so they were like, oh, no, you must have hit something when, not me, but the lady, you must have hit something when you were, you turned it on. It's a provisional ballot. Well, I guess we're going to have to spoil this one. So this is two ballots.
Annoyed? Like,
oh, yes, it's all my fault. How dare a blind person come in and try to exercise my right as a citizen to vote? This was just really putting a cramp in her day. She was not impressed with me being there at all. And Michael and I are sitting there waiting for them to spoil the second ballot and looking at all the different things and all the different ways no one who's disabled can vote in this place. Like, in order to get in the place, like we saw them helping an elderly gentleman in a walker up the step to get into the place. Really? That's not cool. Not cool. There is a ramp in the building, but that's not where they set up the voting machines. That they're not trying to be helpful for people with disabilities at all. And then someone comes in and then I hear them telling someone, now you got to make sure you don't get out of the lines when you're filling that in. You can't get out of that line. And I'm like, okay, what about someone who has like Parkinson's and has tremors, or other disabilities where manual dexterity is not, is challenging? That's not cool. God help them if they've got to go to the electronic voting machine. So what I ended up doing was just saying, okay, forget it. Michael will fill out my ballot.
That's never what you want to do, right?
No, that's not what I want to do. And that's not cool. And you know what pisses me off the most about this is when I was 19 years old, the ADA had just passed and there was a whole, can I say shitstorm?
I'm going to say, ladies and gentlemen, this is Kimberly trying to decide whether or not to bite her tongue.
Yes, that's what this is. So, so there was a whole shitstorm in the small town where I lived about having to move polling places away from where they'd always been into the schools because of the ADA. So all these disabled people could have their ramps and get in to vote. And how dare they mess up our politicking and all our fun and our traditions? More than 30 years on, I'm still fighting this fight. I mean, when I was 19, I wrote an article or a letter to the editor in the paper. I went to Frankfurt to talk to the Legislative Research Committee. And 30 years on, this still.
And see, I'm kind of torn in the sense that, okay, it should not be this way, right? But at the same time, I realize that we as disabled people are not top of mind awareness to whoever is setting these things up. But then maybe we should be, but how do we do that? And should we have already arrived there? So
I would love to have just been an afterthought, but I don't think I was thought of at all. I mean, it's annoying to me that everywhere you go, in the course of your day, you're always reminded, the world isn't really set up for you. We'd really rather you not inconvenience us with your presence. And I'm fed up with it. And I needed to take a couple of days to figure out how to channel this rage into something that can maybe bring about change.
Right.
And not just raise my blood pressure.
Well, I'm sorry that happened to you. That sucks. I mean, there's no better word. And we deal with that stuff all the time. Like, or just, it's like, what bothers me is like when they told Michael to, can she sign this?
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
Can she do that? Like, like I was just somewhere the other day and the lady I usually walk with wasn't there. So another lady goes up to my husband and says, so and so's not here today, so I'm going to walk with her if that's okay. I'm like, dude, you can like address me. It's
Yeah.
And I've said that before, like, and I used to be really snarky about it when I was younger,
When you had the energy for it. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
I'd be at a restaurant, someone would say, what would she like to drink? And I'd say, she would like a Sprite.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It gets so old. But one of the things I think is particularly dangerous about this kind of thing, not maybe dangerous is too harsh a word, but the more that people try to erase you, the more you feel erased. And that's not cool. That's not cool for us. That's not cool for our kids. That's not cool for, people with disabilities are like the largest minority. We keep hearing that. So it's not just a few of us. There's a lot of us, and we can't risk being erased. We've got to stand together and make sure that we're seen and that we're heard.
Absolutely.
Possibly loudly and with expletives, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah. I don't know. It's, and I'm starting to embrace this because I've always been the type of person to just, okay, I want to make myself small and not inconvenience anyone. But you know what? 2023, I'm going to take my space,
There you go. Awesome.
Here.
I love it.
I am here. You're going to see me. You're going to listen to me. And if that inconveniences you, so be it.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. That makes me happy to hear you say that. It really does.
Good.
That makes me happy. So speaking of being heard, I'm going to stop ranting now. Well, I will still rant, of course. I'll just not do it on this particular episode anymore for this. But speaking of being heard, Lisa, how do you listen to podcasts?
Well, I do not subscribe to podcasts, which what I hear is what most people do. They find a podcast they really like, and then they subscribe so that you are aware when new podcasts come out. But I basically ask my Alexa device to play the podcast that I'm interested in. I will say, play the latest episode of Dateline, and then
really,
yeah, and I can do the same thing with the iPhone. I can ask Siri, play the latest episode of Demand and Disrupt, and she will start playing it for me. But if I want to find a new podcast that like, the thing with subscribing, I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, you can kind of browse and see what kind of podcasts there are that you might be interested in, right?
You can with a podcast app, like on your phone. I assume on the computer too, although that's not how I do it. One of my friends, actually, I mentioned that I was going to be recording for the podcast, and she was like, I need to listen to your podcast. How do I do that? I was like, oh, okay. Well, I was like, you have a podcast app on your phone. And she says, I don't think I do. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure you do. I'm pretty sure you do. So I thought, it'd be good to walk people through. Maybe this is a common thing. Maybe, some people would like, like the way that you do it. That would be cool when I'm up moving around the house to be able to listen to a podcast that way. That's not usually how I do it. So certainly the Echo devices, or I assume it's the same way with like Google Assistant and I don't know. What are the others? So. Yeah. I assume it works, pretty much the same way. The way I do it is I use a podcast app. The one I use is called Downcast. It's very blind person friendly. It's very voiceover friendly on the iPhone. And I think they have an Android app also, but I'm not totally certain about that. But that's the one I use. There's some others. There's one called Overcast. There's one called Castro. There are lots of podcast apps. But if you have whatever phone you have, if you just search for podcast, it'll tell you. They all come loaded with an app. So then once you're in that app, you would say search for Demand and Disrupt, and it would come up. And then once you click on Demand and Disrupt, there's usually I think visually, I'm told it's represented as like a plus sign for add, usually up in the right-hand corner, I think. Or, it'll say like subscribe or follow, one of those. And then you'll just tap on that or double tap, whatever. And so then you're subscribed. And then you'll just go to your podcast app and go to when go up to the top usually, and you can like tap on something and it'll refresh your feed and you'll get the newest episodes in there. So that's how I do it. And now I'm going to try the Echo device way.
It is convenient. And you can also ask, what is a good, you can ask her for podcast recommendations. And now in the last week or so, I've noticed it starts giving me updates. I'll get this little doo-doo sound on the Alexa, which means there's a notification. It will say a new episode of Demand and Disrupt has posted. Would you like to listen?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. What if you say no? Will it just hold it for later? You could just get it later?
I have said no because I wasn't where I could listen at the moment. I don't really know what it did with it, but at least I know it's available.
It's there.
So I can go and ask to hear it later.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that is cool. So we hope that people have found this useful, this walkthrough of how to, subscribe to podcasts, different ways to listen to podcasts. If you use a different app that we haven't mentioned and you want us to mention it, or you listen to podcasts in a totally different way, let us know. Send us an email at demandanddisrupt@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. And speaking of hearing from people, we are going to hear my interview with Lindsay Brillhart. She is one of the parents featured in the book, A Celebration of Family, Stories of Parents with Disabilities. So I was privileged to get to talk to her. So here's my interview with Lindsay. So we're here today with Lindsay Brillhart. Hello, Lindsay, and welcome to Demand and Disrupt, a disability podcast.
Hi, Kimberly.
How are you doing?
I am awesome. I'm glad to do this.
Excellent. I am so glad to hear it. Now, you live in where tell us where you're from again?
I live near Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay. Are you in the Ohio side or the Kentucky side?
I'm on the Ohio side.
Are you? Okay. All right. Well, why don't you go ahead and tell us about yourself and about your disability, Lindsay?
Okay. I have a partner that I've had for 14 years, and I have a almost 13 and 22-year-old daughters, 2 girls. Julie is 22 and Sarah is almost 13. I talk more about Sarah. Sarah has a more significant disability. So I talk a little more about her, but I love to include my other daughter in everything as well. I have Asperger's syndrome.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so tell me about some of the supports that you need for daily activities due to the Asperger's syndrome.
A lot of the supports I need are to just have reminders and keep organized. I'm one of those people, I have a calendar and everything else, but still some days, we all have it, I need reminders about things. Like, for example, that my people that come and help me out, they remind me just to make sure that I have everything together for like the next day, for my family. Make sure I get healthy meals. When my daughter Sarah was younger, I didn't have the best healthier meals, and I have healthy meals now, so I can make sure that my Sarah gets everything that she needs, because she has my Sarah is autistic, nonverbal, and she has cerebral palsy, so she doesn't speak. But we have PECS, P-E-C-S, communication system, which basically means we have a book of things that she likes, and she could hand me a picture. For example, there's a picture of mashed potatoes, and it's a picture of mashed potatoes, and it says mashed potatoes on the bottom. And she likes mashed potatoes, so she can hand me the picture and say, Mom, I want mashed potatoes, in that type of way. And she does make noises and things like that. And we're learning with her videos. She loves to watch cartoons and stuff like that, but it's smart cartoons. Like, for example, one of the cartoons says, do you know this letter? And my Sarah makes this noise like, it's something close to that. And we're like, good, you know what that letter is. She knows her letters. She's in 7th grade. So
Okay.
learning. So she's learning a lot through the videos and things that she watches.
Okay. So what other things have you had to do to adapt to Sarah?
I've had to learn how to parent her. When you parent a daughter that is autistic nonverbal, you don't know how to parent them at first. And with my Julie is totally verbal, and can be on her own. She lives with my mom because my family went through some rough times. We're doing better now, but we went through some rough times. And Julie decided to stay at my mom's house. She has a bedroom at my house, but she prefers to stay with my mom. But I get to see her a lot. Like yesterday, we went to lunch yesterday before I took Julie to work. I drove her, but she took me to lunch and things like that. So we do get to go out. But I get a lot of the extra supports for doing things with Sarah, because I have never been with a child that that's nonverbal. So I get some extra supports with her.
Well, that's great. And so tell me about Sarah. Does she go to public school? Is she in a different program?
Sarah goes to a special school. In the beginning, Sarah went to a public school that had a autistic program, and in different states they have different things. And I've learned this recently, that Sarah's in a level 4. So basically it's school, sorry. So basically it means that Sarah's in the school with about 30 kids that have different kinds of special needs. And it's all special needs, and they're integrated in different ways for those kids.
Okay. And she's doing well there and thriving?
She is doing well there and thriving, yes.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear it. Now, you are featured in the book, A Celebration of Family, Stories of Parents with Disabilities. And one of the things you talk about is when you were pregnant with Julie, your first child, you were afraid she would be taken away from you.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little about that?
Okay, I have a dad and a grandfather that were in the medical community, and they thought that I couldn't parent her. So what I did before I had her is they wanted me to go through a parenting course, which I had a pretend baby for about a week or 2 weeks. And I had to, and when I got this pretend baby, I got diapers, I got bottles, I got everything to take care of this baby. And I had to learn to take care of her. And it was a fake baby. And it was recorded, like everything I did well with her and everything, everything I did well with that baby. And I did very, very well. So then I got to prove to my family that it was something good for me.
And the reason you were worried about that is because there was a law on the books in Ohio that the state could take children away from parents with disabilities.
Absolutely. Right? And they have worked since that, and that was, oh my goodness, a while ago, almost 20 years ago. They're working on making it better. Dr. Kara Ayers, and she's in the book as well, has done a lot of work, and I haven't done as much work. with that. I've done a lot of other work. But the work that I do now is to do with that is to talk to people that are going into the system. Talk to professionals that are coming into the system to learn about people that have disabilities, because a lot of the people, when they come into the professions, when they come into the system, they don't know what it's like to work with somebody with a disability. So I do, and I've trained probably about 2,000 people in the past few years, just to get them learning about people that with disabilities, that we are real and we are out here. And the successful stories. Yes, we've seen some not successful stories, but I like to let them know that we have some successful stories out here.
And I read in the book where you mentioned a group called Partners in Policymaking. Is that correct? So tell me about that group.
So we had before, when we came, I got involved with that through the county. And I got involved with that because I wanted to do things better. And right before I had my little girl, there was a case, and it's all in my story, about a little boy named Marcus Faisal that actually lived in Ohio, but he had family in Kentucky, and he had autism, and he went for a long weekend with his foster family. He had a family, and he was adopted into the system, and he had a foster family, and long story, sad story, the little boy got burned in the fire. The foster family left him in a closet for a weekend, is how he got burned in the fire. They didn't want to find his remains and things like that. So they made it harder for people with this. It makes me sad, because I don't want anybody to have anything like that. I think that people with disabilities should be out there and be known to be known. I mean, we all struggle. Nobody's perfect in this world. And just wanted to know that, hey, there are people out here that have kids that with disabilities, but they have extra help, and they can do things better for their families.
Yes, that was a truly, truly tragic, horrific story.
Yeah.
Tell me about your work with TASP.
Okay, TASP stands for the Association for Successful Parenting. The website is achanceToParent.org. I have worked with them for, oh my goodness, since right before my Sarah was born. I got involved with them because of Partners in Policy, actually. Because of Partners in Policy, I had a lady that lived in Columbus, which is about 2 hours from me, say, do you want to go to this conference? Sorry, my brain wasn't syncing for a second. And I went with a lady. I met a lady in the area where she was, and I went with her to this conference. And I have been involved with this organization for 15 years as a part of my life. So we help make sure that families get their stories known, because a lot of the families don't get their stories known, and we want families to be out here and live successfully.
Okay. And what can people with disabilities do to advocate for themselves, or what can people do to advocate for their children with disabilities? What are some things that people can do?
Let me give you an example of a few things I've done. Telling my stories in the book, I think that helps get out there. Talking to people, not just people in the book. I talk to people not daily, about weekly, about my story with my Sarah, just to make sure that things are getting taken care of. For example, we're still working on things. My Sarah's medical doctors don't understand. Some of her medical doctors are fellows, which are basically people going from college to be doctors and things like that. And I still have issues because they don't understand people with disabilities. So advocate for your kids. That's what one big thing. And
Uh-huh.
we're working on making it better for them.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Do you find the medical system a challenge to navigate?
Yes. And even when I have a dad and I have a grandfather, my dad is retired and my grandfather's not living anymore, but I still have family nurses and stuff like that. Even with that, yes, absolutely. And I've learned to talk to them and just tell them about Sarah, and it makes sure that my Sarah comes first, make sure that person comes first, always.
Uh-huh. Did you get better at that over time? Was that hard for you to do in the beginning?
There are still times that I have struggles with it. But yes,
Uh-huh.
I'm always getting better at doing that.
So would that be your advice to other people, is just start, it'll get easier and better over time?
Yep. And your
Excellent.
stories can always change. They're not gonna stay the same. They will get better. And every time you tell your story, I have people that have told my story 20,000 times, maybe, but a lot of times, and they learn different things about me every single time that I present with them.
Uh-huh. Great. Well, thank you for sharing your experience with us, Lindsay. And I'll link to the organizations you mentioned in the show notes. And I appreciate you joining us today.
I appreciate you interviewing me. I hope everybody has a good day.
Thank you. If you like the podcast, remember to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you really like the podcast, we'd love it if you could leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. That helps more people to find us. If you really, really like the podcast, then please tell someone about it, either in person or send them an email or just share the link on social media. Thank you all. Every bit helps, and it makes a huge difference for us. If you'd like a transcript, please send us an email to demandanddisrupt@gmail.com and put transcript in the subject line. Thanks to Steve Moore for helping us out with transcripts. Thanks to Chris Unkin for our theme music. Demand and Disrupt is a publication of the Advocato Press with generous support from the Center for Accessible Living located in Louisville, Kentucky. And you can find links to buy the book, A Celebration of Family, Stories of Parents with Disabilities, in our show notes. Thanks, everyone.
You say you've seen a change in me. Just for once I think I would agree. We both know there's a difference. We've had our curtain call, and this time the writing's on the wall. This war of words we can't defend. Two damaged hearts refuse to mend. This situation's pointless with each and every day. It's not a game we need to play. We tried to make things better. to make things better, repair and rearrange things, but each and every letter spells out the need for us to open up